Hello, everyone. I'm Tom. You probably know me as the person who never shuts up on Slack during tech days, but I haven't been doing it today because I've been very nervous about this talk. So before I start my talk, I'm going to give you a challenge, those of you who are already in the room. Now, for reasons that you're going to realize in a minute, I tried to write this talk without using generative AI at all. But there was one image that I was unable to find on Google Images or make myself. So if you find me tomorrow night at the celebration and you correctly guess what the image was, I will buy you a drink. So I'm going to start with a question. Do you remember when AI was funny? Let's take a look back. Say hello. Don't do that. Say hello to the AI train. I boarded the train back in 2008 when, slightly surprisingly, I attended the University of Manchester to study artificial intelligence, of all things. Now, this may surprise some of you that know me because I'm not a data scientist and have never even really dabbled in the area. The other slightly strange thing is I graduated on the 23rd of June 2010, which means the knowledge I learned in my degree is now old enough to legally drive a car in some countries. But what was I even learning back then? Well, my course focused on these sort of things, really. So like, take computer vision, for example. It's like optical character recognition or facial recognition or things like depth inference. And all of these courses followed the same kind of pattern. You would get 7 lectures of, here's how it should work, and then you would get 1 lecture of, but it doesn't work. Now, that would be because the precision is too low, or the recall is too low, or the computer's too expensive, or it's horribly biased due to training data. But functionally, it doesn't work. So practically, in the 3 years that I was in university, it feels like the train barely moved, maybe this far. Now, over the next 10 years, there was steady progress. You had GPUs to start to speed things up, and you start getting actual functional usages of AI. Things like, I don't know, Google Photo Search, where you could search for elephants and find elephants. Or you could start talking to Alexa or Google Home. And people also start talking about these weird things called transformers. But this is also the time where you start getting strange emergent behavior, and our famous one being the wolf or dog problem. So image recognition algorithms seem to be freakishly accurate, telling whether or not something was a wolf or a dog, until researchers realized that the model wasn't looking at the animal at all. What it had realized is that animal plus snow equaled wolf. So there were still some issues to iron out, but overall things were looking good. It was steady progress. And now things start speeding up. You start getting these large language models. They're getting bigger and bigger. And each successive major version number seems to be significantly more capable than the one before. We're getting huge leaps. And it's impressive. It still feels a bit limited, but like, we're making major progress. Now, there's a common experience I think everybody in this room has, and I was trying to come up with a catchy term for it, because I think we all experienced it, and I think we all experienced it on a different day, and I think we all remember when it was. And it is the day you realized that AI is actually good now. Now, I wanted a catchier term, but everything I could come up with sounded absurdly apocalyptic, so I figured why not lean into it. So what day did you experience the awakening? Actually, that's a bit intense. There we go, the awakening. So on me, it was January the 27th of this year, quite recently. I'd implemented a back-end search feature in one of my services, and I was frustrated that I couldn't ship it due to a lack of front-end capacity. And almost as a joke, when I was talking to my lead, I proposed vibe coding it. And I was expecting something closer to this, but what I actually got was this. It was a fully functioning, well-featured search page built and released in record time, and it works now. And suddenly it feels like we're going 1,000 miles an hour, and the train feels like it's out of control. And it feels like everything is changing, and we're marking progress in terms of months and not years anymore. And it doesn't feel so funny anymore. I stopped feeling like this was interesting academic progress, and I started feeling like it was frightening. It started feeling like a threat. So what is this talk? Well, for a start, it's actually AI neutral. It's not intended to have an opinion on AI itself. We have many other good talks that you've heard today on the safety, productivity, and efficacy of AI. This talk is about the mental health effects of living in an industry that is suddenly moving faster than any of us could have imagined. I think it's important, and I don't think we're talking about it enough already, so here I am. Please be kind. And I'm going to talk about this from 3 different angles. Now, not all of these are going to apply to everybody, but because I am a completionist, they all apply to me. They're not designed to make you more worried. They are designed to acknowledge out loud what I think a lot of you have already been thinking over the last few months and years. And after each area, I'm going to be giving some suggestions on how to take back control. So let's get started. AI does not cause burnout. It can't. Humans cause burnout to themselves and others. But AI encourages burnout in a new and interesting suite of ways. The first of these I'm going to call compression. Now, let's think back to before the awakening. It's pre-AI, and you are working on a ticket. And because Tom wrote it, it has no information in it. And it's time to get busy. Now, implementing a ticket follows a cycle of higher and lower mentally straining tasks. So, for example, at the beginning, you have the discovery period where you're resolving uncertain information, getting the time of busy people, talking to new people, learning new business areas, high mental strain. And you follow that up with an implementation phase, which is effectively the coding in a bubble phase. And I think a lot of us in this room find that actually relatively restful. And then you have a series of refinements and further implementation phases, and then you finish with a release phase where you have to coordinate with your stakeholders. So high and low, and the ticket is released, and how does it stack up? Well, it's roughly equal between high and low mental strain tasks. But let's take a look at the same task after the awakening. Oh, sorry, that awakening. Now, why are these blue boxes so big? Claude can do those for you now. There we go. And that ticket is completed in half the time. And let's pause for a moment. That's amazing. We shipped the ticket twice as fast as we did before. It's an amazing productivity gain. But look at the balance. Over the time of that ticket, you spent a much higher proportion on high mentally straining tasks than you did before. You've had less time to breathe by coding. The second area is overlap. Now let's take another look at that curve. There's still dips in that curve, usually when you are waiting for Claude to respond and just babysitting it. And it can be very tempting to think, why am I just working on one ticket when I could be working on 3? So let's go back to look at the curve. Here's 1 ticket, and here's 3. And now we've delivered 3 tickets in the time it used to take us to deliver 1, which again, let's pause. Amazing, huge productivity gain. But look how much of the time you spent near the top of that mental strain curve. You never had a rest. It came at a cost. Finally, leakage. Now, no one really works like this. You don't have blocks back to back like this. We take breaks. So, oh no, the spacing's all messed up. They should be on one line. So you might go for a walk or catch up with a friend or go to the gym, but you step away for a second and you come back stronger and refreshed. But in the world of Claude, it can be very, very tempting to think, maybe I should leave Claude running when I take a break, especially with the advertising from Claude that very much incentivizes you to keep your phone nearby so you can make sure it never gets stuck. So instead of taking a coffee with your friend, the coffee becomes a coffee with your friend and a laptop to make sure that Claude doesn't get stuck. And maybe you weren't really paying attention to your friend when you caught up. Did you really take a rest? So AI and burnout, compression, overlap, and leakage, and I have a suggestion for each one of them. On compression, be aware of your limits. No one else can tell you when you are burning out. No one else knows. You are the only one who can know. You cannot and you should not be productive 100% of the time. You must watch yourself. On overlap, allow yourself to unitask. It is totally okay to do one thing at a time. Resist the urge to spin an additional plate. You're still delivering faster than you were before. And finally, rest when you rest. It's incredibly important. You had those breaks before, you can still have them now. Resist the urge to keep an eye on Claude whilst you take a nap or whatever. And I really mean this one. Now let's just take a moment to remember that we have the Employee Assistance Program at Wise, and if you are feeling, number one, aware of yourself, that you are close to burnout, you have access to Lyra Wellbeing, which gives you access to confidential counseling sessions if you need them. The next stop is AI and fun. And I'm going to start with a question, another question. Why did you become an engineer? Well, it's going to be different for everybody, but for me, I love puzzles, and I love building things. Anyone who's been to my apartment knows that it's full of Lego, and I am a 37-year-old man. I really enjoy the process of starting with a problem that feels like total chaos, breaking it down into understandable building blocks, and then building it back up into something powerful and productive. Now, obviously, I've never built a jet engine, but for us, that's coding. And I'm going to draw attention to something that's entirely uncontroversial at this point. Coding is fun. I love coding, and I think many of you do as well. But we are paid to do a job, and we don't get to do exactly what we want all the time. So you have to figure out the proportions. Now, many of us would probably like our jobs to be this, but realistically, it's more like this. There are multiple competing areas you spend your time on, and they all make up your job, and they're all important. And I've just made up these proportions. And you'll enjoy some of them more than others. So for me, I really love coding, and I like design, and I actually quite like interviews as well, which some of you may find surprising. And the amount that you enjoy each bit is important, because when the awakening arrives, and you love coding, it's going to affect you a lot more when that suddenly becomes... The slide won't move. There we go. That's the impact I was looking for. Now, it's certainly affecting me. I'm already starting to miss coding. And I want to put up a big slide here that says, it's okay to miss coding. It's a big part of my job that I enjoyed, and it seems to be becoming a smaller part of my job. But I have some suggestions to address this. Number one, find other puzzles. Our job still contains lots of puzzles. They're not all coding related. So take this opportunity to dig into higher level system design areas that maybe you weren't able to look into before because you were spending more of your time on coding. It's an opportunity to increase your scope. And secondly, very simply, allow yourself to code. It's totally still okay, in my view, to code occasionally, especially on high-risk PRs. And for example, if you get agreement with your lead, you could have an AI free ticket once a month to keep your skills sharp. And that's really important because you still need to know how to code. You're looking after these AI agents, and you have to make sure they're doing the right thing. And to do that, you need to know how to code. And to know how to code, you need to code occasionally. The next stop is AI and careers. And this is one of the areas that I've personally felt the most disruption in. This is jumping around a lot. The first concept is depreciation. Now, I've been working for 16 years now, and in that time, I've developed a very particular set of skills that I've acquired over a very long career that make me a nightmare for technical debt like you. And one of these is deep knowledge, which is a fancy word for reading lots and lots of documentation and blog posts and release notes and source code and books and memorizing it all to get to know a thing really, really well. Now, that becomes a valuable skill in a tool belt. This is one of mine, and here are some others that you might have. So, for example, you might be calm in a crisis, or you might be a great mentor, or really, really understand infrastructure. And these all combine together to form your professional self-worth. It is effectively some function of the sum of your sellable skills, and you go out to the market, and that's what you use to sell yourself and get jobs. Now, at this point, it's important to pause and stress that your professional self-worth is not the same as your general self-worth. There's other things in life that should be far more important than your job, but it's always going to have some influence. And for me, it's actually quite a lot, perhaps more than it should be. And that's important to be aware of because it's going to hit differently when suddenly this happens. I can't point to deep knowledge anymore as a selling point for Tom because most of the time Claude does it better than I do, and it does it cheaper. Now, I quite like this visualization because I think it shows how I'm feeling quite cleanly. The roof hasn't actually collapsed. It's still standing. It just feels less stable than before because one of the pillars that was holding it up doesn't feel like it's there anymore. The second area is disorientation, and here I'm going to talk about career paths. We call them career paths for two reasons. One is that they concern careers, and the other is that they are paths. And you start at one end, and you move forward from IC1 to 2 to 4 to 5, etc. Now, in reality, it's more complex, and it looks like this, because we have the branch between IC and EL branches, and roughly around IC3. But fundamentally, you have the idea of, you are here, and you should go this way, that way. And go that way might mean you need to get better at coding, or you need to run a major project yourself, or you need to give a tech days talk. We are used to seeing far into the future. We're used to understanding the 5-year plan. Now, since the awakening, I think we've all been grappling with the question of what skills AI native engineers are actually going to need. And I think we're still figuring out. And I think that is a good thing. It's something that we should be very cautious about. It shouldn't be rushed. But the uncertainty about the future can make it feel like you've gone from this is really messing with my slides, this to this. What is the 5-year plan now? The path isn't as clear as it was 2 years ago. The path is still there. It's just we're not as certain where it is now because we've introduced a lot of uncertainty. So AI and careers. Oh my God, this is jumping forward to half the time. Depreciation and disorientation. So on depreciation, prioritize diverse skills. We always have a choice on which skills we're going to develop at a given time. And in my view, certain skills are always going to require humans. So now is a good opportunity to diversify your portfolio. So that could be working more on high-level design or coordination between teams, conflict resolution, mentoring, or public speaking. And secondly, on disorientation, get involved. So the entire industry is reckoning with this all at once. The news and PR releases can make it feel like engineers in other companies are already ultra AI native 100x engineers, but it's not really true. Thank you. So I can stop complaining about it. But the reality is far from the truth. We're still figuring out what it looks like. So if you're invested in this, get involved. Go to a conference, give a talk, get involved in the conversation that you saw on this stage just before me. So what now? I'm coming to the end of the talk now, and it can feel like I've covered a lot of ground that can feel quite negative. But I want to put something up on the screen that's maybe slightly surprising. I actually like AI. I genuinely think it's an incredible achievement. I think it's important for humanity. More than that, I think we should be using AI. It has huge material benefits to our productivity. But we should be aware of the balance. The major benefits of AI come with a price tag. And depending on who you are, that price tag could look like a risk of burnout, a loss of fun, or a feeling like you've been dislocated in your career at this exact moment. But I'm hoping I've given you a starting point to navigate the railroad. This is not the last word on this topic. It's barely even the first word. Backstage, Thomas said something which I really like. It's opening the book. I'm hoping, though, as we start to think about this more mindfully, we can help bring the benefits and costs more into balance. And I want to end on a comforting, if slightly cheesy note. Now, if you, like me, have been feeling anxious about our industry recently, then you, like me, may have also been feeling that you were on this runaway train alone. But of course, that's not right. We're not on the alone. We're all on the train. In fact, every engineer at Wise is on the train. In fact, every engineer in the industry is on the train. So if you're feeling anxious about any of this, or you just want to be part of the conversation, start one. Talk to me. Talk to your team. Talk to the person standing next to you at drinks later. It can feel like a scary time right now, but it's significantly less scary when we face it together. Thank you.